It was a cold, rainy evening. People walked fast, holding umbrellas and rushing to get home. The streets outside the big city mall were full of noise, but no one noticed the two small girls standing near the entrance. They were wet from the rain. Their clothes were old and thin. The younger girl, around 6, was holding her sister's hand tightly. The older one, maybe 10, clutched an old scratched violin. The violin looked like it hadn't been played in years. Its strings were worn, the wood was chipped, and the case was torn. But the way the girl held it, like it was the most valuable thing in the world, people passed them by without stopping. Some looked away, some frowned. A few took out their phones and snapped quick pictures, but no one helped. No one asked why two little girls were standing in the rain with a broken violin. Then, a black luxury car rolled up to the mall entrance. The driver opened the door slowly, and a tall young man stepped out. He wore a long coat and expensive shoes. His name was Ayaan Mirza, the only son of the Mirza family, one of the richest families in the city. Ayaan didn't usually notice street kids. His world was full of meetings, deals, and parties. But today, something made him stop. Maybe it was the way the girls stood quietly, or maybe it was the violin, the same kind his father once showed him in a photo when he was little. He stood still watching them. The younger girl looked up and smiled weakly. The older one stepped forward, carefully lifting the violin. "Sir, would you like to buy it?" she asked, her voice shaking from the cold. Ayaan didn't answer right away. He looked at the violin. Something about it felt strange. It looked just like the old family violin his grandmother once played. But that violin had gone missing many years ago. "Where did you get this?" he asked, frowning. The girl hesitated. "It was our mother's. Before she died, she told us never to lose it." Ayaan's eyes narrowed. "What was her name?" "Meher," the girl whispered. "Meher Ayaan Mirza." Ayaan stepped back in shock. That name, it couldn't be. Meher was the name of his father's first love, the woman his family never talked about. The woman who had vanished without a trace. The rain kept falling. The violin case slipped slightly in the girl's hands. Ayaan took a step forward and carefully opened it. He froze. Inside the case, on the inner side of the violin's body, was a small, carved symbol. A circle with a flame in the center, the secret symbol of the Mirza family. Ayaan had seen it only once, hidden in the back of his father's study. His father told him, "Only family members know what this means, it must stay hidden." But how did this old violin, held by a poor girl on the street, have that same symbol? He looked at the girl again. Her face, her eyes, something about her reminded him of someone, of his grandmother, of an old picture in the family album that his father had locked away years ago. "Are you sure your mother's name was Meher?" Ayaan asked again. The girl nodded. "Yes, she told us never to forget it. She said one day someone might come for this violin." Ayaan's heart was racing. Was this a trick? Or had his family been hiding a secret all these years? People kept walking by. No one knew what was happening. No one knew that a secret buried for more than 10 years had just come out in the open. Because of an old violin. The younger girl sneezed, holding her sister's arm tightly. Ayaan looked at them both. They were cold, hungry, and alone. But the violin they carried held a truth that could change everything. He turned to his driver and said, "Bring them inside, now." The driver looked surprised but didn't question him. Ayaan stepped back into the car, still holding the violin. He stared at the symbol inside, his hands shaking slightly. He didn't know what was coming next, but deep down he felt it. This wasn't just an old instrument, it was a key to a past that his family tried to erase. And now, the truth was standing right in front of him, wearing a torn sweater and holding a violin in the rain. Ayaan couldn't stop looking at the symbol inside the violin. He sat in the back seat of his black car, holding the instrument gently. Rain tapped against the windows as the two little girls sat quietly across from him. The older one held her sister's hand. Their clothes were still wet. The younger girl kept sneezing softly, trying not to cry. Ayan glanced at the violin again. The carved symbol wasn't just decoration. It was the family crest of the Mirza bloodline. A circle with a rising flame, the mark of the first heir, who built the empire. Only trusted members of the family ever saw it. Even servants didn't know what it looked like. He had seen it once before. Years ago, his father showed it to him in a hidden book. "This symbol," he had said, "must never fall into the wrong hands. It belongs only to us." Then he slammed. The book shut and warned Ayan to forget he'd ever seen it. But now here it was, on a violin owned by a poor girl. Ayan felt a strange chill run down his spine. "Where did your mother get this?" He asked the older girl again. She looked down, her voice quiet. "It was always with her. She kept it in a box. When she died, we didn't know what to do. But one day she told me, 'If anything happens to me, never sell the violin unless you have to, and only if the person seems kind.'" Ayan was silent for a moment. "What was your mother's full name?" The girl looked up. "Meher. Just Meher. She never told us more." Ayan's hands clenched slightly. The name Meher had been whispered once in his house, but only in anger, in shame. Years ago, when Ayan was a child, he had overheard an argument between his father and grandfather. The name Meher was mentioned. His father had shouted, "She was the only one I ever loved," and his grandfather had yelled back, "She was never one of us." That was the last time he heard the name. Now it came back like thunder. He looked at the girls again, small, tired, innocent. Could they be his cousins? He shook his head. "This is insane," he whispered to himself. But something told him. It wasn't. The violin was too real, the symbol too perfect. The melody the younger girl hummed under her breath. He had heard it before. His grandmother used to sing it to him when he couldn't sleep. A song she said was only sung to the real heir. "Do you know that tune?" he asked suddenly. The little girl blinked. "Mama used to sing it. Every night." Ayan leaned back in, his seat stunned. This couldn't be a coincidence. They were connected. Somehow. He looked out the window. They were near his home now, a giant mansion hidden behind tall iron gates. But he couldn't take the girls there yet. His grandfather still ruled the house. And if the girls truly had Mirza blood, he would never let them in. Not after what he did to Meher. Ayan made a quick decision. "Driver," he said, "take us to the guest house near the hills. No one must know we're there." The girls looked confused, but he smiled at them gently. "You'll be safe there," he said. "I promise." He helped them out of the car when they arrived. The guest house was warm and quiet, far from the noise of the city. A maid brought them dry clothes and soup. The younger girl finally smiled, holding the warm bowl in her hands. The older one still looked unsure. Ayan sat near the fireplace, the violin resting on his lap. He turned it slowly, touching the carved symbol again. He remembered what his father once said. The heirloom violin was made for her, for Meher. But she left, and so did it. No one ever found it again, until now. He looked up. "Do you have anything else from your mother?" he asked softly. The older girl nodded. "There's something, a paper. I kept it in my bag." She opened a small cloth pouch and pulled out a folded paper. It was old, yellowed, but carefully protected. Ayan took it and opened it gently. His breath caught in his throat. It was a letter, handwritten. The ink was faded but still readable. "To the one who finds this," it began. He read the first few lines, and his hands began to shake. It was from Meher. It spoke of love, of betrayal, of being pushed away from the Mirza family, of raising children in silence, of a promise that one day her daughters would carry the truth back to the family who had abandoned her. Ayan couldn't believe. It was real. Everything was real. He looked at the two girls again. These weren't just poor street kids. They were part of him, part of a story that had been buried for too long. The fire crackled softly in the background, and in that quiet moment, Ayan knew. This wasn't just about a violin. It was about truth, family, and a past that refused to stay hidden. The rain had stopped, But Ayan's thoughts were still storming inside his head. He sat near the fire in the quiet guest house, staring at the violin resting on the table. The letter from Heir was still in his hand, her words repeating in his mind like an echo. They erased my name, but one day, this melody will lead them back to the truth. In the corner, the older girl, Noor, tucked a blanket around her. Younger sister Alina, who had finally fallen asleep on the couch. Noor's eyes were tired, but she stayed awake, watching Ayan silently. "You said your mother sang you a song," Ayan spoke gently. Noor nodded slowly. "Every night before bed, she said it was special. Only we could hear it. Can you hum it again?" She looked unsure at first, but then closed her eyes and began to hum. It was soft, simple, but as Ayan listened, his eyes widened. He had heard that melody before. Years ago, on his 5th birthday, his grandmother had taken him to a quiet room in their old house. She sat with a violin and played that exact tune. "This was your father's favorite lullaby," she told him. Only Heir knew how to play it. It was their song. That memory had faded until now. Ayan leaned forward, heart racing. "Do you know the words?" Noor nodded again, and with a trembling voice began to sing. "In shadows we hide, in silence we will." The flame, the circle, they were in the family symbol. They were also in the song. And the truth in the strings. Could it mean the violin held more than just the symbol? Ayan picked it up carefully. He turned it over, shook it gently. Nothing. Then, something clicked in his mind. He remembered the violin room in his grandfather's mansion. There was a story told only to heirs of the Mirza name. The true heir will hear more than music. They'll hear the message beneath it. His hands moved slowly, feeling the edges of the violin. One corner was slightly raised, as if the wood was not fully sealed. "Noor, do you have a hairpin?" She pulled one from her hair and handed it to him. Ayan gently slid it into the gap. There was a soft click. He carefully opened a tiny hidden compartment at the back of the violin. Inside it was a small roll of paper, so thin and tightly folded that no one could have noticed it unless they were searching. Ayan unrolled it with shaking fingers. It was another letter. Older. Written in a man's bold handwriting. His heart skipped a beat. It was from his father. "To Heir, if you find this, it means I've failed you. I tried to protect us, but my father's threats were too great. I was forced to choose between love and legacy. I chose wrong. Forgive me. But our daughters are the future now. If they carry this violin and this song, let them find their way home. Let the world know. They are Mirzas too." Ayan's throat tightened. He looked at Noor and Alina, too. Girls who had suffered so much and yet carried the truth in their hearts all along. They're Mirzas too, he whispered to himself. But what would happen if the family found out? His grandfather was still powerful and cruel. He had erased Heir from the family records. What would he do if he knew Heir's daughters had returned? With proof? Ayan couldn't bring them home. Not yet. He had to plan carefully. He folded the letter and tucked it into his pocket. He turned to Noor. "Do you trust me?" Noor looked down. "I don't know. Why should I?" He walked over and knelt beside her. "Because your mother's story deserves to be told. And I think I'm the only one who can do it." Noor watched him for a long time. "Okay," she said softly. Ayan stood up. "But we must stay hidden for now. I'll bring someone I trust. Someone who can help us uncover the truth without alerting my grandfather." That night, Ayan barely slept. The next morning, he made a quiet phone call to his grandmother's old friend, Mrs. Sophia, a retired historian who once worked for the Mirza estate. She agreed to come at once. By evening, she arrived at the guest house. Her eyes lit up when she saw the girls and the violin. When Ayan showed her the letters and the hidden symbol, she gasped. This changes everything," she said. "This is the lost heirloom your grandfather destroyed the records of, and these girls, They carry the legacy your family tried to bury. But why? Ayan asked. Why hide them? Mrs. Sophia sighed. Because your grandfather believed love outside the bloodline was a weakness. He feared Meher's truth would destroy his control, so he erased her. But truth cannot stay buried forever, Ayan. He looked at Noor and Alina again. They were tired, small, but stronger than anyone he'd ever met. This was no longer about helping two poor girls. It was about restoring their place in history. And Ayan knew his fight had just begun. Ayan sat in the back seat of his black car, staring at the city lights as they passed. His face was quiet, but his mind was racing. In his coat pocket were two old letters, one from Meher, the other from his father. Letters that could destroy the image of the powerful Mirza family forever. He looked out the window and whispered, "How could they do this to her?" The driver glanced at him in the mirror but said nothing. Ayan was on his way to the old family mansion. It had been years since he visited. Ever since his grandfather, Zamir Mirza, took over the business, everything changed. Love became weakness. Loyalty was forced. Secrets were buried. And Meher, his father's true love, was erased like she never existed. Back at the guest house, Noor sat by the window, watching the moonlight fall on the violin. She didn't understand everything yet, but she knew one thing. Ayan was trying to help. Her little sister, Alina, played with the violin's bow, not realizing the weight it carried. Their mother had once called it the violin of memory. Now Noor finally understood why. "I hope he comes back," Alina said softly. "He will," Noor replied, though even she wasn't sure. A meeting with secrets at the Mirza mansion. Ayan stood in front of a large wooden door. He took a deep breath and walked in. His grandfather sat by the fireplace, swirling a glass of red wine in his hand. "You came unannounced," Zamir said coldly. Ayan stayed calm. "I found something, Dada. Something important." Zamir's eyes narrowed. "If this is about the business—" "It's not," Ayan interrupted. "It's about Meher." The wine glass stopped moving. "What about her?" Zamir's voice turned sharp. "She didn't disappear. She was forced to leave, and she had children. Your granddaughters." Zamir stood up slowly. "Watch your words, Ayan." Ayan pulled out the two letters and placed them on the table. "I found these. They prove everything." Zamir didn't pick them up. Instead, he stared at the violin resting on the table beside them. It was the same violin he had once ordered to be burned. "How did you get this?" he whispered. "I found it with the girls," Ayan said. "They were selling it on the street, poor, cold, but they still protected it, like it was their last hope." Zamir looked shaken for a moment, but only for a moment. Then his eyes turned hard again. "I did what I had to do. Your father was weak. He would have destroyed everything. I protected this family. You destroyed part of it." Ayan snapped. For the first time in his life, he raised his voice to the man who had controlled their lives for decades. "These girls are Mirzas. They have the blood, the right, and the truth. You can't hide it anymore." Zamir walked over to the fireplace and stared into the flames. "If the world finds out," he said slowly, "the company, the name, the legacy, all of it will be questioned. Is that what you want?" "I want justice," Ayan replied. "For Meher, for them, for the truth you buried." Zamir turned. "You're making a mistake." Ayan stepped forward. "No, you made it. I'm fixing it." He turned and walked out. Behind him, Zamir's hands clenched into fists. A plan in motion back at the guest house. Mrs. Sophia returned with some old documents. She showed Noor and Alina a faded family tree with Meher's name scratched out. "Your mother's name was here," she explained. "But someone removed it." Alina looked confused. "Why would they do that?" Noor answered quietly. "Because they were ashamed," Mrs. Sophia nodded. "But we will bring it back." Ayan returned that evening with a serious face. "It's not safe here anymore," he said. "My grandfather will try to silence us. We have to move." He took them to a safer house in the countryside, far from the city, where no one could find them easily. But they weren't going into hiding. They were preparing for the truth to explode. A video that could break the family one night. Ayan sat with Noor by the fireplace. He took out a small camera. "I want you to tell your story," he said. "Start from the beginning, your mother, the song, the violin, everything." Noor hesitated. "What if no one believes me?" "They will," Ayan said gently. "When they see your eyes, when they hear the song, they will know you're telling the truth." With tears in her eyes, Noor began to speak, and the camera recorded every word. Suspense end. The upload. A few days later, Ayan uploaded the video under a secret account. It was titled, "The Forgotten Daughters of a Billionaire Family. This Violin Holds the Truth." The video began spreading fast. Thousands of views, then millions comments flooded in. "Is this true? She looks like Heir. Why would someone hide this story?" And then, something unexpected happened. A man appeared in the comments. "I worked for the Mirzas for 20 years. I saw Heir cry every night. I know the truth too." Another person shared a photo, a blurry image of Heir holding a baby. With the same violin, the truth was out, and it was just beginning to shake the empire. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the world had already seen it. The video Noor recorded, her voice shaking, her eyes full of silent pain, was now everywhere. Morning. It had crossed 5 million views. People all over the country were watching the poor girl who sold an old violin, telling a story that no one had dared to speak before. The world reacts in homes, in cafes, in offices. People whispered, "Is this the billionaire Mirza family's secret?" "She said she's his granddaughter." "That violin, it's the same one from that old charity concert, remember?" News channels picked it up. Reporters knocked on the Mirza mansion gates. Social media exploded with hashtags, "Gaishat Forgotten Daughters." Truth, in the violin Noor, became the face of a mystery that had been buried for years. Inside the Mirza mansion's Amir, Mirza stood in the center of the living room, red-faced and silent as his PR manager shouted over the phone, "Sir, this video is trending worldwide. People want answers. If we stay quiet, it'll only get worse." Zamir didn't speak, he just stared at the paused screen where Noor was holding the violin and looking straight into the camera. "My name is Noor. My mother's name was Heir. She loved music. She loved a man who left her behind, and she died protecting us from the truth." Zamir's fists trembled. She was supposed to disappear. Dangerous offer at the safe house. Ayan sat with Noor and Alina, watching the reaction unfold on his laptop. "I didn't think people would care this much," Noor said softly. "They care," Ayan replied, "because you told the truth." Suddenly, his phone rang. He answered and froze. "Who is it?" Noor asked, Ayan's voice. Support and threats. After rejecting the offer, support started flooding in. Celebrities shared the video. Former Mirza employees sent emails confirming Noor's story. But threats came too. Ayan got a warning letter from a powerful business partner. "Back off, or your future ends with hers." Mrs. Sophia, scared for the girls, asked Ayan, "Are we doing the right thing?" Ayan replied, "Sometimes the right thing is the most dangerous. A stranger brings more truth." That evening, someone knocked on the gate. It was a woman in her late 40s, holding an old photograph. She looked at Noor and gasped. "You look just like your mother," she said. "I was Meher's best friend." She pulled out the photo. Heir, young and glowing, holding baby Noor and the violin. Tears filled everyone's eyes. "Heir told me the Mirzas paid to make her disappear," the woman said. "But she never stopped loving that man. She wanted her daughters to know the truth. She died with that wish." Suspense end. The live interview. The next day, a famous journalist reached out. "We want to interview Noor. Live, on national TV." Noor's hands trembled as she held the phone. "But what if I cry?" she whispered to Ayan. "Then let them see it," Ayan said gently. "Let the world feel what you've felt." The interview was set for Saturday night. Millions were expected to watch, and in the shadows, someone was watching too. Zamir Mirza. He stared at his old family portrait. One space was empty, and soon, the world would know why. It was a quiet evening. The sun had gone down, but across the country, everyone waited. TV screens glowed in homes, restaurants, even busy airports. At exactly 8 p.m., the screen lit up. Live Forgotten Daughter of Billionaire speaks out. Inside the studio, Noor sat in front of the camera. Her hands trembled in her lap. She wore a simple white dress and clutched the violin gently. Ayan stood behind the camera, nodding to her with quiet support. The host smiled warmly. "Are you ready, Noor?" She took a deep breath, then began. The truth on live TV. "My name is Noor. I am the daughter of Heir, and I never knew my father is because his family forced my mother to leave." The room went silent. Noor continued, her voice soft but strong. She loved him, she never blamed him. But others made sure she was forgotten. She lifted the violin. This was hers. She played it every night. She said it held our family's story. And now I understand what she meant. The host leaned in. "Do you know who your father was?" Noor looked into the camera. "Yes. His name was Imran Mirza, and I am the granddaughter of Zamir Mirza." The nation reacts phones buzzed. Screens lit up. People everywhere stared in shock. She said it. She really said it. "She is a Mirza," the host asked. "Why speak now?" Noor answered, "Because truth should not stay buried. Because poor girls like me deserve to be seen. And because my mother deserves justice." The camera zoomed in on her tear-filled eyes. Inside the mansion at that moment, Zamir Mirza sat in his study, watching. He didn't speak, he didn't blink. Behind him, 2 security men waited silently. "She's destroying everything," he muttered. But then, his lawyer rushed in, face pale. "Sir, we have a bigger problem. Look at this." He handed Zamir his phone. Another video was going viral. It wasn't Noor, it was Imran Mirza, Zamir's own son, speaking. The father's confession on screen. Imran sat alone in a quiet room. He looked tired. Broken. "I've stayed silent too. Long. I was in love with Heir. I wanted to marry her, but my father stopped me." He wiped his eyes. "I thought she left me. But now I know. He sent her away. He made her disappear." He took a deep breath. "If Noor and Alina are truly her daughters, then they are mine." Shock around the country, people gasped. News channels replayed both videos again and again. Mirza's son admits paternity. Truth finally comes out after 20 years. Poor girls are rightful heirs. Crowds gathered outside the Mirza mansion. Reporters demanded answers. The Mirza company's stocks dropped by 20% in one day. The empire was shaking. After the interview, Noor sat in the dressing room. Wiping her tears, the host came in and hugged her. "You just changed everything," she whispered. Ayan came in and smiled proudly. "You were amazing." Noor smiled weakly. "I feel like I can finally breathe." Suddenly, Ayan's phone buzzed. He looked at it and froze. "What is it?" Noor asked. He showed her the screen. A court notice. The Mirzas were suing Noor for defamation. Suspense end. The summons. But that wasn't all. Inside the envelope was another document, signed by Zamir Mirza himself. It was a DNA request. "If you believe you are blood, then prove it in court." Ayan clenched his jaw. "He wants war," he said. Noor held her violin tightly. "Then let's give him the truth." The courtroom was full. News reporters filled the back row. Security guards stood by the doors. On one side sat Zamir Mirza, silent, dressed in a dark suit, his face unreadable. On the other side sat Noor, holding her sister Alina's hand. Ayan was beside them, his eyes sharp with anger and hope. The judge entered. Everyone stood. This was not just a family matter. It was a case that could shake one of the country's biggest empires. The first blow. The lawyer from Zamir's side stood first. "This is a lie," he said firmly. "These girls are not related to the Mirza family. There is no proof. Only a story told to make the public feel sorry for them." He pointed at Noor. "She is trying to destroy a respected family for attention." People in the courtroom murmured. Noor's hands trembled. Then her lawyer stood. "With respect, Your Honor, we have more than a story. We have the truth." The violin secret Noor walked slowly to the judge's desk. She placed the old violin on the table. "This was my mother's," she said softly. "It's more than an instrument. It holds our family's secret." The lawyer gently opened the back of the violin. Inside was a folded paper, old and yellowed. It was a letter, written in Mayor's own handwriting. "To my daughters, if you ever read this, know that your father loved us. We were forced apart. But this violin will carry our story. Keep it safe. Keep each other safe." "Mama," the judge read it silently. Tears appeared in many eyes around the room. "DNA doesn't lie." Next came the DNA report. The test results had finally arrived that morning. Everyone held their breath as the judge opened the envelope. He read the results. Then he looked at Noor and said gently, "You are, without a doubt, the biological granddaughter of Mr. Zamir Mirza and the daughter of Mr. Imran Mirza." Gasps filled the room. Ayan smiled, tears in his eyes. Alina buried her face in Noor's shoulder. Zamir closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he had lost. A family torn, a family rebuilt. Outside the courtroom, reporters rushed toward. "Noor, how do you feel? What will you do now? Are you going to take over the Mirza Empire?" Noor paused. She looked at Ayan, then at Alina. Then she faced the cameras. "I didn't come to take anything," she said. "I just wanted the truth to be heard, and my mother's name to be remembered." Her voice shook. "I'm not here to break a family. I'm here to rebuild one." One last visit a week later, Noor stood outside a small village graveyard. She placed flowers on her mother's grave and held the violin close. "Everyone knows now, Mama," she whispered. "They know you weren't just a poor girl. You were strong. You were brave, and I will carry your music with me forever." She played a soft tune. It echoed through the trees. Alina danced beside her. Ayan stood behind them, watching with quiet pride. Final suspense. Twist, a letter in the wind as. They turned to leave. A gust of wind blew something toward Noor's feet. It was an envelope. Old, dusty, sealed with red wax. Ayan picked it up. There was no name, just one word on the front. "Forgive." Noor opened it slowly. Inside was another letter, from Zamir Mirza. "If you're reading this, then I am gone. I was a man who made too many mistakes. But you, Noor, you are the last hope of this family. Don't become what I was, become better." Noor looked at the sky. Maybe this wasn't just the end. Maybe it was the beginning of a new legacy.